Welcome to part 2 of We Need to Talk About Ireland. If you've not seen part 1, I suggest you check it out. The main takeaway from that video was looking at Ireland's recent results, questioning the originality and suitability of those selected to represent Ireland on the biggest music stage in the world. At the end of episode 1, I promised that I would be looking at suggestions on how things can turn around for the country, and that's what episode 2 is all about. As I said, every problem or every difficulty has a solution. I also asked you, the amazing Eurovision 365 audience, how you thought things could be turned around, and you have most certainly answered my call. Thanks to those who took the time to message me. A lot of those suggestions will be featured in this video. First off, what is RTE doing right? That might seem like an odd question given recent dismal results for Ireland. I think what RTE are doing right is trying to come up with something unique and original. However, with that there is also a negative in that I wonder how well informed RTE are or how much they question the rationale of performance suggestions before going ahead with said suggestions. A recent example of that was in Rotterdam when Leslie Roy took to the stage after some technical problems to present maps. RTE brought in the person behind Mon Sermelo staging, presumably won over because of a 2015 victory in the form of Heroes. I was genuinely excited to see Leslie's performance as we were promised a never before seen staging, and there appeared to be a lot of positive hype in the lead up to the contest. What we got was Leslie running about the stage from one side to the other, trying to keep control of her breathing and having to focus on way too much. It was basically a collage of high school art projects thrown together, which didn't make a lot of sense. After a very nervy performance, Leslie placed last in her semi-final. What I'm wondering about is if RTE saw the staging concept without making any of their own suggestions and just went along with it. I think what RTE should do, if they're not already doing it, is to take some control and not just go along with what's being suggested. In 2022 in Turin, if you watch Chanel's slow-mo with the stand-in, the camera angles are very different. Presumably, RTVE stepped in with their creative director and reconfigured the camera angles to maximum effect. So this became this. When it comes to Ireland's future at Eurovision, one thing I think practically all of us Eurovision fans agree upon is the need to remove the national final from the Late Late Show. I think there's a really strong chance that this could happen in 2024. Ryan Tubridy has now quit hosting Late Late Show and is currently embroiled in an ongoing investigation which I'm not going to comment on. With so many questions around finance and expenditure in RTE, there are questions around the broadcaster which may result in lots of changes both in personnel and in programming. Eurovision 365 viewers from across the different platforms, including Cian Lafford, Jasper, Eurovision fans, Scott Downey, Stevie, Frank Rafferty and others agree the national final should be a separate entity from the Late Late Show. With RTE signalling that the national final will be televised but not specifically mention the Late Late Show, it is looking more and more likely that it will be removed from that format, which at times has been bizarre. If RTE were to have a standalone national final like it did back in the day, there are certainly plenty of options on where to host it. As Kieran Carlin says, renting out the Helix or the Olympia, as I also mentioned in part 1 of this series, is a realistic option for RTE. Costs of a national final can always be overcome through ticket sales. I for one would be more than happy paying over €50 for a ticket to an Irish national final if it meant Ireland had a good quality entry and a performer on which the nation could rightly be assured of doing great at Eurovision. One thing that has been mentioned time and time again is to the experience of the competitors and how this is vetted prior to performance on live TV. I'll take Lila Jane as an example here. By the way, before I go on any further, I just want to say that I totally respect Lila Jane, and having interviewed her prior to the national final, I wish her nothing but the best of luck. and what I'm about to say is not meant as a slur in any way, shape or form. RTE ask that finalised Eurovision ready songs are submitted to them for the panel to go through. When I watched Leila Jane's song for the first time for my reaction video, I was very impressed and gave it a solid score out of 10 based on that video performance, which is obviously pre-recorded and presumably went through a lot of takes, and also presumably that's what was submitted. When it came to the live performance, I was really disappointed for Leila Jane, and one could really see her nervousness. Of course, she was scouted by an Estonian songwriter who had watched her busker videos. When I asked Leila Jane about the transition from busking to a huge Eurovision stage, she said she would have to summon her inner Beyonce. I don't think it's fair on performers with little to no live TV or big gig performances to put them through an ordeal like a Eurovision national final. It has the potential to end a career before it's even started. A solution to this, and a suggestion I would make, is to have live auditions behind closed doors for all would-be Irish Eurovision representatives. Not just one audition, but multiple auditions to ensure the performers have the stamina and capability of performing a good song well live. But who would be on the panel? Well, some of you think there should be involvement from OGA Ireland, and in other countries OGA clubs are involved in the national selections, so this is one option open to RTE. What I think is very important is relevance and experience. Many people knock Jedward, I don't, and have been a huge fan of them since their X Factor UK days, but they spoke a lot of sense during the most recent Eurosong national final. They have 2 experiences of the contest and have a wealth of performing experience, and nearly took the roof off Euroclub in Liverpool. Anyone on the panel must have a genuine interest in Eurovision, and not just interest, but knowledge of the contest and Irish music, so that Ireland doesn't go down yet another path of generic pop music. Ireland has always done best when it has stuck to its own distinctive sound and had belief in itself. I wonder if Wild Youth had have represented Ireland with one of their own unique songs and not rushed off to Sweden to present a very generic pop song co-written by a Swede, if things would have turned out differently. My guess is yes, because ultimately they would have had belief in the song and themselves, and that can only be a positive thing. Many of you have said that RTE have run out of ideas. Tom McFadden suggests giving the gig to TG4, as does Bobby Blair. I wonder if this is due to Ireland's 4th place finish at Junior Eurovision in Yerevan late last year. I think aesthetically the TG4 set is superior to the RTE's Eurosong version on the Late Late Show, but it's not exactly a difficult thing to produce a better looking and sounding national final from what RTE have subjected us to lately. As I mentioned in episode 1, presumably TG4 have even less budget to spend, so I don't think it would be a good idea to go down that particular path. Whatever people have said about Michael Keeley, he does have experience, as do RTE. I think it's the only show in town. That brings me on to what I've hinted at a few moments ago, and that is belief. What's happened to the times when Ireland were confident going to a contest? Don't give me any of that Eurovision has changed so much since the good old days. I don't accept that. There are much smaller nations doing way better than Ireland. A country always does best when it has belief. I don't accept that Ireland hasn't got the internal talent in either songwriting or performance capability either, and it definitely has experience. It's heartening to learn of a songwriting camp, as this could produce something great. You travel to any country in the world that has an Irish bar. When you go in, what do you hear? Do you hear songs like Maps or 22? Of course you don't. You hear distinctly Irish sounding songs and you're up dancing and enjoying yourself. The world loves Irish music, and that is Ireland's strength, and Ireland's strength at the contest. Those that are suggesting a national final suggest having a final of 8 or 10 songs. RTE of course used to have a final of 8 songs, so this is something that could easily be changed. John Eastham and Claire Dunphy, among others, are suggesting a song in the Irish language. Although I agree their language is amazing, it's hard to imagine RTE ever sending a song in the Irish language anytime soon. As Liam Boy also suggests, ballad, no fireworks, keep it simple. but I think second place Eurosong finalist from 22, Janet Grogan, is spot on when she says the artist and the song being emotionally connected to each other is key. There's so much talent in Ireland, and as I say, and as we all know, Irish music is loved the world over. I want to be going to Sweden in 2024 believing that Ireland are in with a chance of winning and not just scraping into the 10th qualification spot from the semi-final. We have waited far too long, and Ireland needs to send something to Eurovision that people would expect to hear from Ireland. The deadline for submitting songs is approaching, and I and we at Eurovision 365 are very much looking forward to seeing what the next national final brings. One thing for sure is we'll be there with you every step of the way. Many thanks to everyone who took the time to reply to my request for opinions on this matter, but as always there will be much more to discuss as time goes on. Feel free to comment below your thoughts, of course, on this episode, and if you have anything else you'd like to add, please make sure to do that. I look forward, as always, to reading your comments, but until next video, you take care, I'll see you very soon.